going through the concept, the foundational concept that the authors scripting Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Acts are endorsing, we come across little things as we're seeing in John. But more than that, there is a greater picture, and that greater picture is the particular good news or the particular gospel or the particular philosophy or doctrine that is connected to with what we have been reviewing. When we're seeing John, the John character connected to a particular throne, which is undoubtedly Herodian. Yes, it is figuratively covered up. That's the point behind how these authors and why these authors write the way they write. But going even back to my presentations on King Herod Agrippa I, seeing that a particular religion was created around this king. His form was deified. This is very clearly seen from Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and the Acts. Looking at this in a particular way and in that regard for the Herodian gospel, one finds something pretty interesting, and that is the point. That's the point of that gospel. That's the point of that doctrine. The Herodians had a particular religious point of view that was also mixed with a particular political point of view. Nevertheless, we see it taking shape through the person of King Agrippa I and laid out in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John through their specific lineage. Now, to really get what this Herodian gospel is, the point of it, and that's what we're going to do at this point, is look at the overall concept, the use, the point of the Herodian gospel. You have to go back to the origin of their bloodline, of the origin of the Herodian bloodline, which is Edom, or Edomite is the same as Idumean, which we see scattered throughout Ezekiel, for example. But the Idumean is also the Edomite, but the Edomite has an origin, which I'm sure we know, but for reference, just want to put this in and out there. So the book of Genesis. Genesis 25:30, Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom. So that's very plain. Esau is Edom. The bloodline of Edom, the Edomites, goes back to Esau. So when we're seeing the Herodians, and historically, again, as I've mentioned in my presentations on Agrippa I and his bloodline, the Herodians are Edomites. The Edomites go back to Esau. Esau's name is exchanged for Edom. It's the same individual character. Same individual character. The Herodian gospel is an Edomite gospel, or the Herodian gospel is the gospel of Esau. What's the gospel of Esau? Well, Esau is known for birthright, right? Esau is known for his birthright and for sacrificing his birthright. The gospel of Esau, the gospel of Edom, the gospel of the Herodians, it involves one sacrificing their birthright. We're going to see this. We're going to see how. We're going to see why. Because the Herodian gospel, as we're seeing it, we are absolutely unfamiliar with it. But the Christian theory springs from out of the Herodian gospel. We have to know that, because that's important for when we get into the Christian theory. The origin has an origin that is Edom in nature. The origin has an origin that is Esau in nature. And that origin reflects the mindset or the mind state. Which mindset? Which mind state is one of sacrificing birthright to fulfill what is physical, to fulfill a hunger that is needed by the body. That's interesting. We're going to look at what this means, and we're going to see the point behind the construction of the Herodian philosophy. When Jacob and Esau enter onto the scene of action, they are referenced with a key verse outlining their controversy. Genesis 25. Genesis 25:24-26, when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. After that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. Now the scene grabbing the heel sends one back to Genesis. The scene grabbing that one's heel sends one back to Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, thou shalt bruise his heel. Esau is playing the role of the serpent here. Jacob here is playing the role of that woman. Jacob will bruise the heel of Esau, sure. Who is Edom? Sure. But Edom will take the head of Jacob. Just because it's not written there of anything about Esau and that head is the serpent there with that woman, doesn't mean that just because Jacob fulfilled the role of that grabbing onto the heel, that doesn't mean that Esau isn't going to fulfill Esau's role. The way that the Bible is written in a very funny way. Before we even get to know who the character Jacob is, we are told the name. Name in Bible does not mean literal name. Name in Bible does not mean literal name. What does Jacob mean? What does Jacob mean? It means point blank, heel catcher or supplanter. Now you see that 6117 there? That actually goes back to the foundation of the root of the word Jacob. Let's see what that means. That means to swell out or up, to seize by the heel, figuratively as if tripping up by the heels. To circumvent, it means to restrain. It means to keep one stayed. You're not moving, you're not going anywhere. It means to supplant one completely. When you're called a Jacob, that's nothing cool. You don't want to be called a Jacob. To be called a Jacob means to be that you are one restraining. And this isn't literal. Again, the Bible does not use literal people for their names. These names don't represent literal people. They represent the character. Names represent character. The character of one. Even before we get into the story of how Jacob supplants, we're getting the character name. The name itself tells us the ministry. So what does Esau mean? What does Esau mean? Well, looking at Esau, Esau means, in a sense, rough. But that same foundational root number, as was for Jacob, it's also here, 6213. What does that mean? That means to advance, to accomplish, to have the charge of, exercise, be industrious. It means to greatly hinder, to spend or perform. It means to serve or sacrifice. It is a workman. It is a use. Esau means to yield. Esau means to vex. Esau means to finish, to furnish, and to gather. All of these terms fit. Jacob, the supplanter. Esau, the vexer, the finisher, the sacrificer, the one industrious, the exerciser, the one of charge. These two names are to go back and forth with one another. And the way that it is done is a way that is very curious and very interesting, because the Esau, being the one that sacrificed, being the one that vexed his own estate by relinquishing his birthright to sustain what is physical, the gospel of Esau is just that, to take the head by vexation and by exercise that causes one to relinquish their birthright. This is the behavior, this is the act, this is the doctrine, this is the gospel that is philosophically employed against all Jacobs. and against all Jacobs that would become Israel.
Ever wonder if your faith truly reflects your experience? Discover the essence of a living and breathing faith in A Faith That Works. A Faith That Works challenges you to not just believe, but to act on your beliefs in a positive way. Cooperate with the Bible to cultivate a faith that doesn't just speak, but also acts. Give your faith the chance to shine. Your journey is unique. A Faith That Works encourages personal reflection to find your devotional essence. Deepen your connection with the Bible. Let its devotional characters shine through your actions. Experience the transformative power of a book challenging you to examine your faith. Let it change you. Let it guide you. Embark on a journey to explore the depths of your beliefs. Let A Faith That Works be your compass.
The controversy between Jacob and Esau is a controversy concerning birthright. Concerning birthright. What birthright, though? What birthright? Go into the book of Genesis. Genesis 27, 28, and 29. Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren. Let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that cursed thee. Blessed be he that blesseth thee. Now everything here is the birthright. Everything here is the birthright, and it is all written and said in figurative language because culturally only these people know what that means. Luckily for us, we can examine the Bible to understand what this means. The most prominent of this is the dew from heaven. That's the first half of the major gift. The first half of the major gift is the dew from heaven, which dew from heaven is corn and wine. Is to produce corn and wine. What is corn and wine? Go into the book of Haggai. Haggai 2, 11 and 12. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, ask now the priest concerning the law, saying, if one bear holy flesh in the skirt of his garment, and with his skirt do touch bread or pottage or wine or oil or any meat, shall it be holy? The priest answered and said, no, now, corn and wine, it's coupled together with pottage. What is the thing that Esau sold his birthright for? Book of Genesis. Genesis 25, 29. Jacob sawed pottage. Esau came from the field, and he was faint. Pottage. The same pottage that is coupled together with bread, wine, oil, any meat. They're all synonymous. Now, we know in reality they're not synonymous. We are dealing with Bible's philosophy, Bible's mind. Bible figuratively illustrates pottage coupled together with these things, allowing us to understand that they are in some way, shape, or form synonymous. The ultimate gift. The first part of that ultimate gift concerning the birthright, it's dew from heaven. And that dew from heaven being corn and being wine. That corn and wine being that same pottage. And in our previous meeting, in the previous episode of Justification, showing that although this pottage is linked with bread and meat, the previous episode we saw that bread equals meat. And meat has a fundamental understanding, meaning understanding, counsel, wisdom, doctrine, philosophy. So the birthright, one's birthright, is to receive from above understanding. And understanding appearing in the form of dew or showers from above. What does that mean? To the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 2, my doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. What happens when rain falls down from above? Or when understanding rains down from above? One is receiving rain of speech. Rain of speech. This isn't literal rain, Bible is using showers of blessing. Blessing to the Bible only appears in the form of words. And words raining down, the right to receive words raining down from above is part of that birthright. And when that happens, what next takes place? When that's raining down, what takes place? The book of Joel chapter 2. Joel 2:23-25, be glad then, you children of Zion. Rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month. And the floor shall be full of wheat, and the fat shall overflow with wine and oil. I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm, the caterpillar, the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. When we are receiving showers of blessing, when we are receiving an outpouring of doctrine, an outpouring of speech, it's not coming from another person's voice, because it's coming from the words within the Bible itself and the understanding raining down upon the land that we are tilling, illustration from the episode prior. We are going to have restored to us our land, the land within. One's birthright, the ultimate cause and purpose of that birthright is the restoration of what is within from understanding. Jacob wanted that because that was Jacob's character. He was a tent-dwelling individual. He wasn't out in the field as Esau. He was in the tents doing things only tent people do, which is to review, which is to reflect, which is to learn, which is to understand, which is to meditate. This was preferable for Jacob because the first part of that birthright, that's going to be very pleasing to such an individual with such a desire. Those showers from above, that's the promise. And that's the birthright, again, to every Jacob that will and would become an Israel. When showers of speech are raining down upon the land that is within the body of our devotional conversations character, still, what is to spring up? Going to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 11. Deuteronomy 11:13-14, and it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in what? That thou mayest gather in thy corn, and thy wine, and thine oil. All of this, corn, wine, oil, it all means the same thing. It means, just as that same bread and pottage, it means doctrine. It means words. It means understanding. The first part of that birthright is the right to receive from above and from no one else and from nothing else understanding. The second part of that birthright is to have what is received from above, from no one else and from nothing else, but the words that are within the scriptures, understanding, the outreach of that understanding, that particular understanding that is generated, the outreach, now going from what is within out to others, the outreach, the benevolent service of the understanding that one is cultivating when experimenting with, when examining, and when exercising the understanding acquired from the scriptures, the outreach, that's the birthright. Esau, on the other hand, didn't receive that, received something else, which moved that Esau to pick up the employment. And that's why, and the illustration is figurative, that's why it says that the heel was held. And with that heel being held, one can automatically know that the head will be taken. If the heel is held, the head will be taken. It is Esau's role. It is Esau's character to take the head of Jacob, and specifically by exercise. We saw what Esau means. We saw what Esau means fundamentally. There is a list of traits. The exercise, the vexation, the service, the industry. Esau now will put Jacob's head to use for a particular industry by exercise. Again, this is philosophical. And although brief in this episode of Justification, the illustration is pointing to the character traits and the work therein. I'm sure we are familiar with the story of Jacob and Esau and the controversy there, the affliction of Jacob, the terror caused by Esau, and what happened after that. The narrative therein is fixed to their characters, and their characters are fixed to a philosophical agenda that the author writing that is ultimately pointing to. Esau's main goal is to take the head away from Jacob from and through exercise. What kind of exercise? To the book of 1 Timothy 4:8. Bodily exercise profiteth little. Godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is, and of that which is to come. This is the exercising of the body. What kind of exercising of the body? This isn't talking about fitness. This isn't talking about physical, muscular activity. What body is the author talking about? What exercise is the body talking about? Because whatever they're talking about, it profits little. This is not the physical body. This is the body of the belief. What kind of exercising, as an example, does the body of the belief inherit? Going to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 11:24-25. When he had given thanks, he brake, said, "Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me." And the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, "This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as you drink it in remembrance of me." It's really interesting that this here that we are reading in Corinthians, this is a bodily exercise. Now, the author that's supposed to be writing the Corinthians is also supposed to be writing the book of the Timothys, and the author writing the Timothys sort of contradicts this opinion. Bodily exercise profits nothing. To the author writing Timothy, to the author writing the Corinthians, bodily exercise must be done for remembrance. In reality, bodily exercise, that's the routine that is to take the head of every Jacob that will become an Israel. Bodily exercise profits nothing. Bodily exercise is what the gospel of Esau, the gospel of the bloodline of Esau, that's what that gospel wants to hold its adherent to. And to hold its adherent to for the purpose of taking their head away by vexing, by vexation, by exercise, by servitude, by industry. When submitted to the Herodian gospel, that's the intended purpose. That's the intended point. For the body, we're not talking about ultimately physical firstly, the body of the belief, and then the body, physical body, to suffer by exercise a type of vexation that is to leave one in a service, removing their head, removing them from the intended birthright.
Ever wondered how to truly connect with the Bible? In just 60 seconds, you'll discover a unique way to deepen your faith. Knowing Bible is a course crafted to bring you closer to the Bible and yourself. Tailored to fit your learning goals, it offers a personal journey. Through readings, reflections, and interactive classroom dynamics, you'll grow spiritually. Assignments are designed to give you space for personal devotion. This course helps you envision a devotional experience that truly suits you. Imagine a course that meets you where you are and takes you deeper. Don't miss this chance to transform your spiritual life. Click the link in the description for more information.
Do we remember John 6:63? The flesh profiteth nothing. Do we remember that? It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. Now, if that's there, why is the same character that is saying this placing into practice a flesh-based routine, habit, and tradition? Which practice this character is only doing because the information from this character, it's downloaded from the material given by the author writing the Colossians, the Corinthians, and the Timothys. There's something not right there. And there's something not right there because the authors writing the Matthews and the Johns and the Lukes, although they're pulling from different manuscripts, they're pulling from different manuscripts that really can't get away from the actual philosophy of the actual philosophical minister for which the component of Jesus belongs. The flesh. And in Bible language, this isn't necessarily the human body. The body of our belief, the flesh of our belief, the exercising of the body of our belief, it profits nothing. Nothing. Profits nothing. Why? Because when tending to do so, one is taking themselves away from the birthright that is situated and that is fixed to them. The birthright of receiving wisdom from above to work with the land that is tilled within for the purpose of an outreach of what is within benevolently to hearts, to minds, and to conversations outside of us. The intended purpose of the Herodian gospel, whose bloodline traces back to Esau, the one that sold his birthright. The intended point of that gospel is to cause devotional conversations and to cause the conscience of devotional conversations to relinquish their birthright, to receive understanding from above. That relinquishing, one will never know, because when entered into the construct that the Herodian matrix is, one is relinquishing the conscience and the character of their conversation to the invention, to the very, very clear invention of the priest, of the minister, of the priests, of the priesthood connected to the religion that is to come from the Herodian landscape. When you review the character John, when you review the character Jesus, when you see the references and the citations connected to John, and when you see the illustration for whom the Jesus character applies and is applied to, one can understand that the Christian theory did not begin as it is. The Christian theory has a Herodian backdrop. And the Herodian backdrop is continuing the culture of the Hellenistic rulers for which this family has been brought up with and is associated. We don't really understand that, for example, Josephus claims Hasmonean lineage. Josephus claims Hasmonean lineage. Agrippa I, Hasmonean lineage. His son, Hasmonean lineage. Josephus and the Herodians are by blood family. The emperor cult marrying into that, whether from Alexandria or Rome, this is all one big family. This is all one big family. And the Herodians are only continuing the culture of their family. But they are doing it not as the Hellenistic Ptolemaic rulers or family bloodline, not as the imperial Roman cult bloodline. They're doing it as their Jew bloodline. being Hasmonean, the bloodline of these people is to contain in narrative embellishments. And the Herodian gospel that we're seeing, lining all of these things up, when you do, you see a very great embellishment. That is the foundation of the Christian theory, yes, but that is not that particularly the foundation. The foundation of that is a Herodian landscape, is a Herodian marking up of a specific agenda that is fulfilled and philosophically fulfilled through what the mindset of Esau is. And when we are contained within that mindset, when we are entertaining the Herodian mindset, the Herodian gospel, the Herodian philosophy, we are entertaining, relinquishing our birthright, and not our physically, our devotional conversations birthright to receive from above, figuratively, ultimately from words and through understanding, making meaning and reflections and exercising what we have acquired and understanding. We are receiving the wisdom, and we are cutting off ourselves. We are cutting off ourselves by adhering to the particular fundamental gospel or doctrine that the Herodians are putting out there. We're cutting off from ourselves the ability to receive from above that birthright to our devotional conversation, for which it needs its growth and development, and for which, without, it will never be justified.